waiting patiently, is our old friend
Burke, Brian Burke. How you doing, brother?
Good, guys. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while. It's been over 2 months where yourself and everyone at Hockey Central and Tim and I, we've been just doing this without actual content to talk about. How have you found it, Berkey? And what have you learned about this business? Because like in broadcasting years, you're still relatively fresh, or you're not green, but in terms of the role you're in, it's still relatively new. What have you learned about this business going through this gauntlet of nothing?
Well, I know you jerks dropped me last week because you had a full slate. And you're like, we don't need Brian Burke. And I guess this week you do. So I'm like, what changed?
That was
second.
I was told we were giving you a break.
Absolutely cannot wait. Absolutely cannot wait for the Bundesliga. I don't even know what a Bundesliga is. It sounds like an injury.
Suffered a strained right to Bundesliga.
So what have I learned? I learned that my friends Tim and Sid will drop me like a bad habit if they have a busy week.
We had nothing to do with it. In fact, our instructions to Jeff Assaparty, who books the show, who's been a rock star for the past 2 months, is whatever Berkey wants. That's the headline on every email that we have sent. Believe it or not, Mr. Burke, because we're back, especially now being back on TV. You know, when the three of us got together on Thursdays, that's a must watch. That was a good segment.
Last week, I got a size 12 boot right in the nads.
Those don't go over that well. Let's move on eloquently, or as eloquently as Sid and I can, to some hockey talk. Yesterday, we heard the premiere of British Columbia, a place that you know pretty well, talking about the potential of playing not just some games in BC, all games in BC. Is this just lobbying for the economic state of whatever province and or state that we're talking about? Like, how does this work for the next little while, or do you even know?
Well, I think, first off, I think it's really smart because someone is going to end up hosting these games if we play. Now, we may not play,
right?
But if we play, so here's the scenarios. You start with, okay, the original ideal scenario was we're going to finish the regular season. Well, that ain't happening. So now it's like playoffs, 24 teams, 20 teams, 16 teams. They're going to try and do 24. If they can't, they'll do 20. If they can't, they'll do 16. If they can't, they'll do 8. But for the Premier to be pitching for this, I think is sheer genius. Now, I think the NHL, once they arrive at a format, will decide that they're going to play in hubs. And I don't think Kamloops, which is a great town, great rink, Victoria, great town, great rink, I think they want NHL facilities to play these games because of the back-of-house amenities that Gary Bettman talked about a couple of weeks ago, like the X-ray machines, the rooms of a certain size and quality, the medical care, the ability to sanitize. So I think the league's going to figure out how many teams they can accommodate and then how many hubs they need. And I don't think it's going to, if it is Vancouver, it won't be a regional hub. It'll be the Canucks.
Brian Burke here on Tim and Sid.
Makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
I almost forgot about the dressing rooms and the ability to turn up the,
and the hotels close by, like Kamloops. There are nice hotels in Kamloops, but they're away from the rink. At most NHL cities, you can come up with enough hotels for 4 or 6 teams, almost walking distance or a 2 to 4 minute bus ride. Especially if the league gets to close down some streets, you could make this really simple and really sterile and really easy to do from a sanitation standpoint. I worry about all of these things. I worry about 24 teams to me. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. It's too big a number. 20 teams. I'm like, you're kidding me. 16. I think we're going to get down to 8 at the end of the day, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's 16. I hope it's 20. I hope it's 24. And in the meantime, we follow the science and wait and see what the doctors tell us.
And Berkey, the one thing, and Tim and I brought it up yesterday, that people, I mean, maybe don't forget about Vancouver, but haven't brought up in this context. This is an Olympic city not that long ago. And not everyone was stationed downtown. I mean, this is a part of the country that is well versed in having some type of gathering of this size. And I think it makes a lot of sense from that regard as well.
Yeah, Toronto and Vancouver, World Cup, Olympics. Obviously, the Olympic security is a much higher level, and they did it masterfully. Trust me, I was there. They are equipped to do this. There are quality hotels 100 meters walk from the rink. Again, so if you got 4 teams, or you got 8 teams, you need quarantine facilities for each team so they can walk from their rooms or take a bus from their rooms, eat in the hotel. They have their own floor. The chefs are all, all cleaned up and knocked, the whole thing is certified. And then they get to the rink and they play. There's a high degree of sanitation that will have to occur, and Vancouver's done it, and they've got hotels right beside the rink. Vancouver, Toronto, same thing. Edmonton, the hotels are more problematic. It's a great setup otherwise. So we'll see. It depends on how many teams play. If 28 teams are going to make the playoffs, they're going to need a number of hubs and a number of cities. If they get to 16, which is what I believe is be the most they can do, it's going to be 4 or maybe even 2. And if they get to 8, which is I think what might happen at the end of the day, there'll be 1 hub.
Brian Burke still recovering from, quote, a size 12 to the nads here on Tim and Sid. If you think we're going to 8, and listen, I'm not here to dispute that knowledge, but as soon as you said it, I started thinking about our economic conversations of the past, Brian, and how much that would hurt the NHL if you were able to play and then you only got that amount of games out of 8 teams. You're probably working from behind economically. Do you think moving forward there'll be things in place like there's the possibility that you could have a 24-team playoff next season just to try and get to recoup some money? There's advertising possibilities. Like, where do you think, if it's 8, the NHL is going to have to play some catch up economically, won't they?
Yeah, well,
regardless,
the industry is going to have to adjust. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Like, someone called me the other day and said, "You're just a doom and gloom guy." I'm like, really? I'm not. You guys know me. I wake up in the morning. I think good things are going to happen. I think our league can come out of this great. I think we'll be fine. I think the long-term, short-term economic harm to this game will be substantial. I think we're talking 18 to 24 months, and then we'll be fine. But in the meantime, okay, so Bill Daly says if we play whatever format we have, if there's 2 or 3 positive tests, that won't derail a process. Well, I'm not sure health authorities would agree. UFC had an event last weekend or 4 days ago. A fighter tested positive. What did they do? Did they shut the event down? Nope. They sent him back to the hotel with 2 of his crew, and they had the event. Okay, so I'm not sure that flies. I don't like testing. We don't have enough, and it's not reliable. Like the White House, the tests they're giving the White House people, the President of the United States, the company that administers the test, that manufactures it, admits a 15% failure rate. So 100 people take that test, 15 test negative that are in fact positive. Are you kidding me? And then the New York Times ran an independent test or some other bloody paper and said it's close to half. But how can we live with 15% failure rate? So I say, I'm still working at the league. I go in, Washington Capitals going to play the Pittsburgh Penguins. I say, guys, we've tested you all. You're all healthy. You can fight. You don't need full face masks. Everything's good. Have a great game. Oh, by the way, I might have missed 2 guys on each team because of the failure rate of the test. And if it's a really bad test, I might have missed 6 guys on each team. You think we can play like that? I don't think so. I think the authorities are going to say no. There are huge potholes in the road here, guys. I can't believe people aren't focused on it more. The revenue loss will be massive. Massive. The rollback on player salaries will be massive. We'll be fine. We'll figure it out. But people are just not looking at the landmines in front of us. They're like, oh, we can play. The premier of BC, who seems like a real good guy, here's the plan. Great. Okay, what's the testing? Do we have testing for every player every day? Because that's what you need. Can we do testing for every player every day ahead of people on the front line that really need those tests? Do hockey players have status where they can steal tests from frontline workers? I don't think so. We got a long ways to go here, guys.
Yeah. Brian Burke here on Tim and Sid. Burkey, considering everything you just said, if you were still in the league and you were in an at-risk stage in your life, and I'm not kidding when I say that, I'm being serious. Would you feel comfortable?
64.
Yeah, you are. but like everything I say is kind of sarcastic, but I'm just not being sarcastic right now, I'm being serious. Would you feel comfortable being part of a hub if you were running a team? Would a coach like Mike D'Antoni of the Houston Rockets this week says, look, I'm 69 years old. I know everyone's talking players, but there's a few of us in a different bracket here, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. Would you feel comfortable? Do you think players who aren't at risk, but based on some of the things you just mentioned to us from a testing standpoint, will just decide for a lot of completely valid reasons not to show up?
It's all about testing for me. It's all about a reliable test that can be administered daily. It's that simple. If we don't have that, I don't know how we proceed. You guys know from the get-go, I've been saying I don't think we're going to play. I don't think technology will keep up with our needs, and I don't think we should come ahead of the people that really need the testing on a daily basis. So I don't think we're going to get there. I hope I'm wrong. I pray every night I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But, okay, Mike D'Antoni, here's one thing. You know what's really wrong? He doesn't look 69. He looks like he's 49. What's with that? How does he get away with that?
I guess it's 10
years.
I hate him. I hate his guts. He doesn't look anywhere near his age. And I look more than mine. No, it's going to come down to testing. If I can say to Mike D'Antoni or any other coach or any other Brian Burke, anyone, you were tested today, you're negative. All the players in your team are negative. We're going ahead and playing this game. I'm good. I'll sit on the bench if you want me to.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, Joe Rogan at the UFC, and I saw Daniel Cormier doing the same thing yesterday, said he was shaking guys' hands and not social distancing because he said that everyone tested negative, so what are we worried about? And that's what went through my mind, too. And I know that there's like, people are trying to shade this as, well, you believe one way because you read this newspaper, or you believe another way because you read this or you do that. But there's a lack of knowledge right now that everyone needs to work through together worldwide to figure out where we're at. And that's why the next 3 days, 2 weeks, 2 months means so much to everybody, no?
Okay, so here's my advice to people in Ontario, regardless of what Premier Ford says tomorrow, and what opens up and what doesn't. It doesn't mean you have to go. You don't have to golf tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. You can observe proper guidelines and social distancing, face mask, hand wipes. You can follow all the same guidance that you've been following, even as things open up, because that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Me too.
That's what I'm doing. I'm going to stick to the same guidelines no matter what opens up. And so the other thing I'd say is we need reliable testing. It's not here yet. And it's going to be a while before we get it for everybody. And to me, that's when pro sports talk, like baseball saying July 4th, okay. You're telling me you're going to have testing materials for all your roster and your staff to test daily because that's what you need to do. I don't think so, but if you do, go. I'd love to watch the Jays. Let's go.
Right.
Brian Burke here on Tim and Sid. Burkey, just for you and for Timmy, Helene Elliott just sent out a tweet along the conversation we're having. And it's regarding what Luc Robitaille just told a season ticket holder Zoom meeting for the Kings. And according to Helene, Luc Robitaille says NHL plans keep changing, but the league seems to be leaning towards returning and going right to the playoffs. Is that consistent, Berkey, to some of the things you're hearing from inside the league?
I just told you guys that a few minutes ago.
I wanted to double check with you. Because I felt bad about last week. I just want to double check.
Well, by the way, Helene Elliott works for the LA papers, but covered our team when I was in Anaheim. She is a first-rate sports reporter. Like, she's a star. And she's on the Zoom call. And what Luke is saying, what I just said is, everyone wanted to finish the regular season. Ain't happening.
No.
Ain't happening. Too much logistical difficulty. We're going right to playoffs. Now the question is 24, 20, or 16.
So answer me this. Once whatever happens here happens in the next whatever amount of months, how many changes do you foresee to next year, or can you answer that without seeing what happens in the next few months? Because, like, I wonder if we're going to see an expanded playoff for a while, Berkey, just to try and recoup the money that we lose this time?
Well, God damn it. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think it's a big mistake. Like, I am dead set against more teams in the playoffs other than this year. But I'm afraid you're right. Once you open that door, it's really hard to jam it back shut and put a padlock on it. And I know see, here's the thing that bothers me. So we used to be at so many teams, and it came to expansion, and these owners dislocated their shoulders, raising their hand to take the expansion money, which they didn't share with the players. And I'm like sitting there watching this back to Columbus and St. Paul. And I'm watching this, I'm thinking, your playoff odds just went down dramatically. And they kept raising their hands. And then now they're all like, well, we've got to expand the playoffs. I'm like, you really don't. Once Seattle comes in at 16 out of 32, in my mind, half your league. So if you win one more game than you lose, you should be a playoff team. And if you don't, you're not. Well, you know what? That's not a high enough bar. I'm good with 16. But, Tim, you're right. What will happen from this is it will open the barn door, and then God help you if you try to close it. They'll be like, okay, it's just a 3-day delay. So we'll add a wild card play-in round. It's a best of 3. It's 3 days in a row, no travel. So the team that's trying to play in has to play on the road for all 3 games. They got to win 2 road games. And if they get in, they get in. And people say it's great. I think it sucks, but it's coming.
But it's good.
For this, it's going to continue.
But Tim's right on a couple of levels. One, economically, but two, just you describing that best of 3 turkey shoot is amazing television.
And that it'll be.
It would be unbelievable television. I'm not saying it's a great idea, Berkey, but as a consumer, that is going to be, it's as close to the NCAA tournament as you're going to get with the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then you can still get the real Stanley Cup playoffs.
I intend to pout through the whole thing.
I love it. I love it.
I don't hate
anything
that.
else that you want to add on? I know we last week we let you down, even though I was told we were giving you a break.
The only thing I want to add is that I really am offended that you felt you had better guests than Ryan Burke last week, and it'll take me years to get over it.
Who was on the show last Thursday?
We can't. Look, you think we can just say no to James Cebulski? I mean, goodness gracious. Like, we have to give him time, Berkey. We have to give him time.
He's quiet now.
He's quiet now. This is the point of the interview where Berkey has had enough.
Yeah.
And he's been amazing, and we appreciate your time. Brian, stay safe. Continue good work.
Thanks, guys. You too.
We'll
Thanks for having me on. Stay safe, everybody.
All right. Be well.
Yeah, Berkey.
Yeah.